"Ah, what's wrong? Think your hair makes you special?" sneered the thug, scissors flashing dangerously in his hand. The crowded park went quiet instantly. 3 thugs circled a terrified black teenage girl, mocking her cruelly as tears filled her eyes. One grabbed her long, beautiful braids, yanking them harshly. "Let's see how tough you are without these," he taunted, raising the scissors. Bystanders stared, frozen and silent, afraid to intervene. Nearby, leaning calmly against a park bench, Jason Statham's eyes narrowed. His relaxed posture shifted slightly as his fists clenched tightly, knuckles whitening. The thug leader sliced cruelly, shaving off one of her braids, laughing loudly as the girl cried out in pain. That cry of anguish snapped Jason into action. Pushing away from the bench, Jason moved forward, his gaze locked onto the leader with deadly calm. The thug laughed arrogantly, completely unaware that he had just made the worst mistake of his life. Before continue, like and subscribe to catch Jason Statham's epic face-off with Thug's leader, and comment where you're watching from today. The bustling city street was alive with midday activity. Vendors shouted deals from sidewalk stands, taxis honked impatiently, and a wave of hurried pedestrians flowed endlessly in both directions. Amidst the noise and chaos stood a small jewelry stand run by Mia, a determined young black girl known for her kindness and quiet strength. Each delicate bracelet and handcrafted necklace represented hours of hard work, carefully created to help her family make ends meet. But today, Mia's stand had become a humiliating stage. The 3 thugs continued their cruel torment, each mocking her loudly as passers-by slowed down, nervously glancing away to avoid involvement. One thug, the leader with the scissors still clenched in his hand, leaned forward, grinning cruelly as he waved Mia's freshly cut braid in her face. "Maybe you can sell this too," he laughed, tossing it onto her carefully arranged jewelry. Mia's eyes filled with tears, her hands trembling as she desperately tried to gather the scattered items back onto her stand. The cruel laughter grew louder, the thugs clearly enjoying the spectacle they'd created. Mia tried to stay strong, but the humiliation burned deep, her cheeks hot with shame. She had worked tirelessly day after day, crafting and selling her jewelry to support her younger siblings after their parents had passed away. Her braids weren't just hair, they symbolized her heritage, her pride, her strength. And now, a stranger had reduced them to an object of mockery. Jason Statham remained a silent observer, standing a short distance away by the park bench, his gaze locked sharply on the unfolding cruelty. Every mocking laugh from the gang, every whispered comment from the gathering crowd, stoked a quiet fury building within him. His eyes flicked briefly to the trembling girl and then back to the smug thug, who clearly thought he was untouchable. Nearby, bystanders exchanged nervous glances. Some reached subtly for their phones, recording the cruelty but unwilling or unable to intervene. Jason noticed it all: the arrogance of the bullies, the helplessness of the girl, and the cowardly silence of the crowd. He had seen enough. Taking a calm, controlled breath, Jason straightened from the bench and stepped deliberately toward the thugs. They hadn't noticed him yet, but they were about to. Jason calmly stepped into the circle formed by the bullies, his presence immediately felt. Conversations halted, replaced by an eerie silence. The bystanders instinctively stepped back, eyes wide, sensing the tension about to explode. Jason's expression remained ice-cold as he sized up the leader, his eyes briefly flicking to the humiliated girl still trembling nearby. The lead bully turned his head, frowning at Jason's sudden intrusion. "You got a problem, old man?" he sneered, arrogance dripping from his voice. The other bullies chuckled, their confidence bolstered by numbers. Jason said nothing, his eyes locked firmly on the leader, analyzing his stance, reading his fear beneath the bravado. One of the bullies, impatient and eager to impress, lunged at Jason without warning. With swift precision, Jason sidestepped, catching the bully's wrist mid-strike and twisting it sharply until a painful crack echoed clearly. The bully dropped to his knees with a shriek, clutching his wrist as pain surged through him. Gasps rippled through the crowd. No one had expected such brutal, effortless efficiency. The rest of the bullies froze, disbelief and panic flickering across their faces. They glanced nervously at their fallen companion, suddenly aware they had drastically underestimated their opponent. The black girl stepped back further, eyes wide, gripping the remnants of her shaved hair, still shaken but now hopeful. Jason's decisive action ignited a spark of strength inside her. The leader, feeling his authority crumble, tried to regain control. His face reddened with rage and embarrassment. He waved the scissors he had used to humiliate the girl, shouting aggressively, "You think you're tough? Let's see you try that again." Jason remained calm, his eyes narrowing slightly, an unreadable smile touching his lips. His voice was chillingly quiet. "Walk away now. You've had your fun." But pride blinded the leader. With a yell, he lunged again, brandishing the scissors menacingly. Jason reacted instantly, dodging effortlessly and twisting the leader's arm backward until the scissors dropped, clattering onto the pavement. The bully gasped in agony as Jason effortlessly restrained him. Spectators gasped, some pulling out phones to capture the moment. Jason leaned close, his voice barely audible yet impossible to ignore. "You humiliated her in front of everyone. Let's see how you handle humiliation yourself." The leader's eyes widened with fear as Jason tightened his grip. The once arrogant thug's bravado crumbled instantly, replaced by a desperate struggle. But Jason's iron grip didn't budge. He turned to the crowd, still holding the thug securely, his eyes hardening with determination. "Someone hand me those scissors," Jason said calmly, his intentions now unmistakable. The crowd gasped collectively. The tables had turned. The bullies had chosen the wrong victim, and now they would face the consequences. The stunned silence lasted only a heartbeat before rage flashed across the bullies' faces. Their leader, his pride bruised and eyes blazing with fury, stepped forward, signaling his accomplices to surround Jason. The crowd watching held their breath, sensing the explosive tension about to erupt. "You're gonna regret that," the leader spat, his fists clenched tightly, humiliation fueling his anger. Jason didn't flinch. He simply raised an eyebrow, inviting the challenge. The first bully lunged forward, attempting a wild punch. Jason sidestepped smoothly, grabbing the attacker's arm and twisting it into a painful lock. A swift, powerful strike to the back of the bully's elbow forced him to collapse to the pavement, howling in pain. Another bully rushed from behind, wielding a heavy metal chain he'd hidden in his jacket. The crowd gasped as Jason pivoted instantly, catching the chain mid-swing and yanking the thug forward with incredible force. Jason slammed his knee into the bully's gut, leaving him gasping for air on the ground. A third attacker hesitated for a split second, then foolishly surged ahead, throwing desperate punches. Jason easily dodged the strikes, delivering a lightning-fast counter-blow that snapped the bully's nose with a sickening crunch. The thug stumbled back, clutching his face, falling to his knees in defeat. The stunned crowd murmured in shock. Whispers rippled through the bystanders as they realized exactly who had just stepped in: Jason Statham himself. Phones emerged, capturing every brutal, yet justified strike. The leader watched his gang crumble around him, panic flashing in his eyes as he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small blade. Holding it out shakily, he tried to intimidate Jason. You stay back," he shouted, desperation evident in his trembling voice. Jason calmly stepped forward, completely unbothered. The crowd gasped again, knowing they were witnessing something unforgettable. With blinding speed, Jason grabbed the leader's wrist, twisting it sharply until the knife clattered harmlessly onto the pavement. With swift, calculated movements, Jason twisted the leader's arm behind his back, forcing him down to his knees in front of the watching crowd. Jason paused, glancing briefly at the terrified young girl, a silent understanding passing between them. Then, picking up the scissors dropped by the bullies earlier, Jason leaned close, his voice ice-cold. "Thought humiliating someone was funny, didn't you?" Before the bully could respond, Jason began calmly and methodically shaving the leader's head, mirroring the cruelty he inflicted earlier. The crowd watched silently, shocked and fascinated, as chunks of the bully's hair fell to the ground. When Jason finished, the bully knelt shaking, completely humiliated, his arrogance shattered. Jason tossed the scissors aside, staring coldly down at him. "Now you know how it feels," Jason growled softly. The bully lowered his head, defeated, as whispers rippled through the crowd. Justice had been brutally, perfectly served. The leader knelt in stunned humiliation, breathing heavily as strands of his shaved hair fell around him, scattered on the pavement. His gang was defeated, scattered and unwilling to help. The crowd remained silent, captivated by the brutal justice they had just witnessed, phones still filming every moment. Jason stood firmly above the bully, holding him in place effortlessly. His eyes were cold, voice dangerously calm as he finally spoke. "Now, apologize to her, properly." The leader hesitated, glaring up at Jason defiantly. Jason's grip tightened slightly on the man's shoulder, making it clear that refusal wasn't an option. Swallowing his pride, the bully slowly looked up at the girl. Her eyes were wide, teary, yet filled with quiet strength after witnessing Jason's actions. I'm sorry," the leader muttered, his voice shaking with genuine shame for the first time. "What I did, it was wrong." Jason leaned closer, voice sharp, authoritative, and unforgiving. "Say it louder. She deserves respect." The leader clenched his fists but obeyed. He repeated louder, clearer, voice trembling, "I'm truly sorry for humiliating you. It won't happen again." The crowd murmured, amazed. The girl's tense expression finally softened into relief, her dignity restored in front of everyone. Someone from the crowd shouted, "That's how you teach respect." Others nodded, applauding, validating the girl's courage and Jason's powerful intervention. Jason turned calmly to the crowd, his gaze serious but controlled. His voice resonated clearly. "Remember this, humiliation isn't strength. Protecting others is." The crowd erupted into louder cheers and applause, recognizing the truth in Jason's words. Still kneeling, the leader didn't dare move until Jason released him. Once freed, he stumbled away, refusing to meet anyone's gaze. His gang followed silently, heads low, completely defeated. As the bullies fled, Jason quietly approached the girl, briefly meeting her eyes with a nod of reassurance. She returned a grateful smile, understanding the unspoken message. Justice was served, and she was no longer alone. Jason quietly knelt beside the girl, gently picking up pieces of scattered jewelry and carefully placing them back onto her stand. His movements were deliberate and comforting, offering reassurance without unnecessary words. The young girl blinked away tears, her hands steadying as she began to help him, regaining her confidence with every passing second. Slowly, the crowd moved closer, their hesitance dissolving into genuine empathy and support. A woman stepped forward first, warmly smiling as she picked up a necklace and handed the girl extra money. Another man quickly followed, purchasing earrings and bracelets, nodding kindly as he placed bills in her trembling hand. The girl's posture straightened noticeably, her eyes brightening as gratitude and newfound strength replaced her earlier fear. Jason quietly stepped back, sensing the shift in energy, allowing the girl to take center stage. His presence faded into the background, subtle and unobtrusive, letting her feel the genuine support of those around her. As the girl's products quickly sold out, her face radiated a new strength, empowered and no longer afraid. She glanced up briefly, searching for Jason, but he had already blended seamlessly into the crowd, silently ensuring that this moment of triumph belonged entirely to her. The girl stood taller, realizing that kindness and courage had won today. This moment wasn't just about confronting bullies. It was a powerful reminder that real strength is defined by courage and kindness, not intimidation and cruelty. Jason Statham didn't step forward for applause or recognition. He intervened because standing up against injustice isn't just an option, it's a responsibility. He reminded everyone watching that courage isn't loud or boastful, it's quiet, decisive, and protective. When bullies humiliate, degrade, or harm those they perceive as weak, it's everyone's duty to step forward and challenge that cruelty. Every day, in moments both small and large, we decide whether to stand silently or stand strong. Today, one act of courage restored dignity, empowered a young girl, and changed countless minds. Now it's your turn. Stand up. Speak out. Protect those who can't protect themselves. That's the Jason Statham way.